Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. Jared here with another video from Fanboys Forever. Today we're going to be having a look at the final figure of Wave 3. I have covered all three of the previous figures of the Turtles of Grayskull line. Now, of course, if you're not familiar, this is the crossover line between the Ninja Turtles and the Masters of the Universe, and it's yielded some pretty excellent figures so far. So let's see if Wave 3 can stick the landing with Casey Jones. Now, this is a figure I was actually pretty shocked that they ended up doing. For whatever reason, I really didn't think that they would end up getting around to doing Casey. It just seemed like the kind of thing that probably wouldn't blend well with Masters. And perhaps that was just my limited imagination speaking, and I should have known that the people at Mattel would have been able to have come up with something. But in today's review, we're going to see if that something they came up with was indeed a good mashup. But before we begin, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video if it's something that you end up enjoying today. Also, be sure to comment down below with your own thoughts about Casey here and the rest of the line. Alright, and with all that out of the way, let's begin. So first of all, looking at Casey here, it's definitely an interesting aesthetic that they've chosen to go with. It's really, there's two things going on here. There's extremely traditional Casey Jones aesthetic things, and there's some things that are a little unexpected. For one thing, I really love the kind of blue that they've chosen for his tank top there. To me, it really does remind me of that classic Casey Jones sort of look. And I really like that he has the gray kind of sweatpants look, but they've also found a way to incorporate kind of a sneakers aesthetic, and even if it's the boots. I also appreciate that he is wearing the furry underwear, so it's almost like Casey got there and the only pants they had available were the ones with furry underwear built into them. Beyond that, Casey is using some of those pieces that we have seen already with other figures in Origins, like say for instance Man-at-Arms shin guard right there, and Jitsu's chopping hand, and an entirely new bandolier kind of piece to where it has a turtle shell right here and pouches looking like a 90s superhero, so I think that's pretty cool as well. On the back, which is probably where most of the interesting things are happening with Casey, he has his giant duffel bag or golf bag or hockey stick bag, whatever you want to say, full of goodies and weapons from all around Eternia, and I can't wait to take a better look at that. So I'm just going to say right at the beginning though that the figure tends to be a little back heavy because of all that stuff, especially when you have it loaded down. So in order to alleviate that and prevent a whole lot of crazy falls throughout the review, I'm just going to go ahead and detach this and lay it to the side until later on. So let's start right here with Casey himself. And we're going to take that mask off so that we can have a look at their Casey Jones head sculpt. And I actually think this turned out really well. What it reminds me of is kind of a blend of the 2003 Turtles cartoon alongside of, you know, a couple of other sources, maybe a little bit of Elias Koteas from the Turtles movie. And I think it ends up looking really nice. It definitely is a little more youthful than we're used to seeing, a little less scruffy Casey Jones, but I think it works really well for this Masters aesthetic. So that's one of my favorite parts of the figure. I think it is a little odd that he's wearing a shirt that, you know, that it goes all the way up to the neck. Of course, that depends on, you know, what you're looking for out of your Casey aesthetic. To me, it doesn't really bother me very much, but it is kind of funny. You would almost expect it to be like a tank top. I'm pretty sure that you would be able to remove this fairly easily back here if you wanted to, and there's just this little clasp right here, and you can get him down to just the blue tank top. Of course, you can also remove that Man-at-Arms shin guard down there, and you're left with a pretty basic Casey. I think they've made some truly great selections for this figure in terms of making him seem like an Eternian hockey goalie, because they've taken, you know, classic pieces that we know and love, like the Jitsu glove or hand, whatever you want to say is going on with Jitsu, using the Man-at-Arms shin guard there, and it definitely looks like the kind of hockey gear that you would use on Earth. Of course, this gets us to this mask, which looks more like something of the WWE Eternia line. It looks definitely like something you would have seen there. Not sure if it is something reused from that or not. Most of those I didn't collect, but it's definitely an interesting choice. I think what has been the most controversial aspect of this figure has definitely been that mask, because so many people expect to see, you know, the actual hockey goalie kind of Jason looking mask for Casey Jones, so it's a little weird to see something different. But I really do feel like this is appropriate, because it comes to a point to where if you don't do something a little more Masters of the Universe, then it's essentially just a Casey Jones figure with nothing, you know, special or additive about it. And again, this comes back to something I mentioned during my Wave 2 review. This could have been a discussion between Viacom and Mattel about Viacom saying, hey, you've got to veer a little bit more away from the classic Casey design and a little more into Masters. Come up with something that you would see in Eternia, not something that another one of our partners has the rights to do. So I actually like it. I think that it works. Is it what I would have done? I'm not 100%. Like I said, I think it works for what they're doing here, but I probably would have gone in a different direction, even if that would have been just doing this as like a bone white rather than doing it as silver. He also does have his actual hockey stick right here, and I really like this. I think it's interesting that it's almost like a sort of semi-transparent bluish green, turquoise, whatever you want to say. So this brings me to Casey's bag of goodies. Now this is mounted right back here with the same kind of mounting system that all the turtle shells mount with. So that's something that I expect to see carried over in other parts of Masters Universe Origins later on, because it's been so prominent in this line. And I'll show you what it looks like laden with all of his stuff except for his hockey stick. And yeah, it's pretty full, all kinds of cool goodies in here. And I really like that they have that same metallic-y kind of orange, and it works really well. Especially the sculpt here of the actual bag is really, really nice, and it's a great aesthetic from Masters of the Universe. He has a holographic, you know, kind of turquoise axe piece right here, which is really cool. And it does have what appears to be a connector that can go into a hand socket maybe. So I think that's interesting. He does have the kind of spear piece that we see in several other Masters figures, just colored in more of the man-at-arms, kind of orange. He does have the sword that you would see in something like Ninja or, you know, other figures that have the same kind of basic samurai sword. So if you want your Shredder to have a sword, he comes with it. And he has, of course, this big hammer with the skull on it, which I think might have, what is this from? Maybe Masters of WWE Eternia or something. But it's really cool that it's in there. What I like is that the bag has this little area over here on the side. So for the things that are kind of longer accessories, you can actually snap those into the side, and it does storage for those. This also works really well with the actual hockey stick itself. So if you want to, you can just mount that right on there like that. Not only can you mount this thing to the back, but it also has a carrying handle on it. So if you want Casey to carry it around with him like luggage, he can totally do that. I'm not really sure why you would, but you can. And as long as you're not loading it down completely like I had it earlier in the review, he can totally wear it and it won't drag him like down completely. You can probably put one or two things in there and he won't be so back heavy. It's definitely not impossible to have him stand up wearing it, but it does make it quite a bit harder. And just for fun, here is a comparison with his NECA brethren right here from the Mirage Comics series. Probably this is my favorite Casey Jones figure that has been made so far. And it's sort of hilarious to think these are supposed to be the same character. And even though it's really hard for me to get this lined up correctly, using this like spare accessory piece that came with one of the NECA Casey Jones, you can kind of get an idea of what this would have looked like. And it does hurt my heart a little bit when I see it like this, because this does look better than the actual default mode that we get with this. So yeah, I think they might have underestimated how important the actual hockey goal kind of Jason mask was to the visual identity of the character, but that doesn't mean that this still isn't a cool look. And I think that this is one of these stronger releases that we've gotten. I think it's a really cool looking figure just in general, and I think he comes with a massive amount of stuff and some really great accessories that I think will be really entertaining for us to pose around. But of course, let me know what you think about this figure in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and like the video. And of course, as always, God bless you and yours. And I'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Fanboy out.